I was sitting in that sterile bank office staring at my laptop screen, watching $390,000 vanish from my account like smoke. 10 years. A decade of skipping dinners out, driving a beat-up Honda, living in a cramped studio apartment, saying no to vacations, to new clothes, to everything that made life easier. All of it, every single sacrifice building toward one dream. My own house. A place that was mine, where nobody could tell me to leave, where I could finally breathe. But something felt wrong about this. Something I had sensed for months now, but pushed away. My phone buzzed. Dad calling. His voice would either explain this nightmare or confirm my worst fear. Before I tell you how my own father robbed me blind and laughed about it, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe, because this story is about to show you why you should never trust anyone with your money, not even family. Now let me take you back to where it all started. Let me paint you a picture of who I was before everything fell apart. My name is Atticus, 32 years old, working as an accountant for a mid-sized firm in Denver. Nothing fancy, nothing glamorous. I lived in a studio apartment that cost $850 a month, the kind of place where you could touch both walls if you stretched your arms wide enough. My car was a 2008 Honda Civic, with a dent in the passenger door and a stubborn check engine light that had been on for 3 years. I cooked every meal at home, packed lunches in Tupperware, containers bought generic brands at the grocery store. People thought I was cheap. Maybe I was. But I had a plan. A vision so clear I could taste it. From the moment I turned 22 and landed my first real job, I started saving. 30 to 40% of every paycheck went straight into savings. No exceptions, no excuses. While my college friends bought new trucks and went to concerts and took trips to Cancun, I stayed home and watched that number climb. 1,000 became 10,000. 10 became 50. 50 became 100. Each deposit felt like another brick in the foundation of the life I was building. The dream was simple. A house, not a mansion, not some showpiece. Just a small place with a yard, maybe 3 bedrooms somewhere. I could paint the walls whatever color I wanted and plant tomatoes in the summer. Somewhere that was mine. I was so tired of living in spaces that belonged to other people, tired of asking permission to hang a picture frame, tired of hearing footsteps above my head at 2 in the morning. But here is where the story gets complicated, where family comes into the picture, like a storm cloud you did not see coming. My father, Gerald, was 58 years old, worked at a machine shop his entire adult life, hands rough as tree bark, always smelling of motor oil and cigarette smoke. He was the kind of man who believed in old-fashioned values, believed that the youngest son carried the family hopes, and that youngest son was not me. That was Kyle, my brother, 4 years younger, and the golden child since the day he was born. Growing up, I watched it happen, in real time. Kyle got the new basketball shoes I got, the hand-me-downs. Kyle got money for college. I worked 2 jobs and took out loans. When Kyle wrecked his first car at 17, Dad bought him another one. When I asked to borrow the family truck to move into my first apartment, Dad said I needed to learn responsibility and rent a U-Haul instead. I could have been angry. Maybe I should have been. But I told myself that was just how families worked, that someone always got the short end, that it did not matter because I was going to make it on my own anyway. I kept in touch, drove home once a month for Sunday dinners, even sent them $500 every month to help with bills. Because they were my parents, and you took care of your parents. My mother, Linda, was 56, a retired nurse who spent most of her life in the background of every family decision. She never contradicted my father, never stepped in when things got unfair. She just watched with sad eyes and said nothing, and somehow that silence hurt worse than my father's favoritism. 2 years ago, when my savings hit $250,000, my father called with a proposition. He wanted to open a joint account. For emergencies, he said. In case something happened to them, in case they needed money quickly, for medical bills or house repairs. It made sense, in a practical way. They were getting older, and I was the responsible one. the one with the steady job and the financial cushion. I remember sitting at my kitchen table, phone pressed to my ear, feeling that familiar pull between duty and doubt. Con bit day, ba mer ja, Roy, he said, mixing Vietnamese into his English, like he always did when he wanted something. If something happens, and we need money fast, you understand. I understood, or I thought I did, so I agreed. We opened a joint account at Wells Fargo. All three of us had full access. All three of us could deposit and withdraw. It was supposed to be for them for emergencies. But I kept using it as my main savings account, because honestly, what was the difference? They were my parents. They would never touch it unless it was life or death. I kept saving, kept depositing. 250 became 300. 300 became 350. Month after month, year after year, watching that number climb toward my goal. By March of this year, I had $390,000 sitting in that account. I could almost see the house keys in my hand, almost smell fresh paint on walls that would finally belong to me. I trusted them. That was my mistake, or maybe it was just proof that I still believed in something good about the people who raised me. Friday morning in March started like any other. Coffee at 6:30 a.m. Shower at 7. Out the door by 7:45. I was sitting in a meeting at 9:15, half listening to my boss drone on about quarterly projections when my phone buzzed in my pocket. Email notification from Wells Fargo. Large withdrawal notification. My stomach dropped before my brain even processed the words. I excused myself from the meeting, walked quickly to the bathroom, locked myself in a stall with shaking hands as I opened my banking app. The screen loaded slowly, each second stretching like taffy. And then I saw it. Account balance $127.43, where there should have been $390,000, where my entire future had been sitting safe and sound just 2 days ago. There was nothing. Almost nothing. I could not breathe. The bathroom walls seemed to tilt. This had to be a mistake. A glitch. A hack. I called the bank immediately. Got transferred 3 times before finally reaching someone who could pull up my account. Yes, sir. I see a withdrawal here for $389,872.57, processed 2 days ago at 3:47 p.m. Who authorized it? My voice sounded strange, distant, like it belonged to someone else. The withdrawal was made by an authorized user on the account. A Mr. Gerald Parker. My father. My own father had walked into a bank and cleaned out my life savings while I was sitting in a budget meeting, probably worrying about office supplies and printer paper. But that is my money, I said, stupidly, uselessly. I have been saving for 10 years. I understand, sir, but this is a joint account. All parties have equal withdrawal rights. The transaction was legal and processed correctly. Legal. The word hit me like a fist. He had not stolen it in the eyes of the law. He had just taken what he was technically entitled to take from a joint account. Never mind that every single dollar was mine, that he had never put a penny into that account, that he knew exactly what that money meant to me. I called his phone. It rang 6 times, went to voicemail. I called again. Same thing. I left work early, told my boss I had a family emergency, which was true in the worst possible way. My hands shook on the steering wheel the entire 45-minute drive to my parents' house in Aurora. On the 3rd try, he finally picked up. Dad, there is $390,000 missing from our account. Do you know anything about that? Silence. Not the silence of confusion, but the silence of someone deciding how honest to be. Then he laughed. Actually laughed, this short, sharp bark of sound. Oh, that. Yeah, I withdrew it. Kyle needs it. The world seemed to stop spinning. What do you mean Kyle needs it? That is my money. I saved for 10 years. It is in a joint account, son. Legally, it is our money, too. I checked with the bank before I did anything. Of course he had checked. Of course he had made sure he could get away with it. But it is for my house. You know, that you promised you would never touch it unless it was an emergency. Plans change. Your brother has a business opportunity. A real investment, not just buying some ordinary house. This restaurant concept is going to set him up for life. A restaurant. Kyle, who had never held a job longer than 8 months, who had never cooked anything more complicated than ramen noodles, needed my life savings for a restaurant. I was already in my car when I hung up, already driving my foot pressing harder on the gas pedal than it should have. I needed to see his face when he said these things. I needed to understand how a father could do this to his son and feel nothing. Their house looked the same as always when I pulled up. Small ranch-style white siding that needed paint chain link fence around a patchy lawn. I did not knock. I had a key. I walked straight in. My father sat on the brown leather couch in the living room, arms crossed like he had been waiting for me. Kyle was next to him, grinning like an idiot, like this was all some big joke. My mother stood in the kitchen doorway, dish towel in her hands, eyes on the floor. I need that money back. Now. My father stood up slowly. He was shorter than me by 2 inches, but he still tried to loom, still tried to use physical presence the way he had when I was a child. You are not getting it back. It is already transferred to Kyle's business partner. The deal is done. What deal? What restaurant? Kyle leaned forward, excited, oblivious. Come on, bro. Do not be selfish. This restaurant concept is going to make millions. Farm-to-table craft cocktails, the whole thing. You will thank me later when I pay you back triple. Kyle, you have never worked in a restaurant in your life. You do not know anything about running a business. My father's face hardened. Your brother has ambition. He has vision. You just want to buy some house and live your small, boring life. Well, your money is going to do something bigger now. Thanks for your naivety, son. Your money has now secured your brother's bright future. You can always save again. You are still young. The words hung in the air like poison. Thanks for your naivety. Like I was stupid for trusting them. Like I deserved this for being dumb enough to believe my own parents would not rob me. I looked at my mother. Mom, say something. She finally met my eyes, and I saw something there. Not quite guilt. Not quite regret. Just resignation. Your father knows what is best for the family. Best for the family. As if I was not part of that family. As if my dreams did not count. And that was when I started laughing. Not a chuckle. Not a nervous giggle. A real full-belly laugh that echoed off the walls of that cramped living room. My father's face shifted from smug satisfaction to confusion. Kyle stopped grinning. My mother looked up from her dish towel. What is so funny? My father demanded. I could not stop laughing. Tears were running down my face now, and I had to bend over, hands on my knees, trying to catch my breath. You really think you won? Do not you? What are you talking about? I straightened up, wiping my eyes. You took the wrong bait. The room went completely silent. Even the old clock on the wall seemed to stop ticking. What do you mean, wrong bait? Kyle's voice had lost its cockiness. That account, I said. My laughter fading into something colder, sharper. That $390,000. It is not my real savings. My father's face went pale. What are you talking about? Let me take you back 18 months. That was when I first noticed the signs. My father started asking too many questions about my savings. How much did I have now? When was I planning to buy a house? Did I have enough for a down payment? Kyle started dropping hints about needing money for opportunities, big chances that were just around the corner if only he had capital. My mother got quieter than usual, which was saying something. I am an accountant. I notice patterns. I notice when numbers do not add up, and I notice when people start acting like they are planning something. So, I ran a test. I stopped depositing money into the joint account, but kept telling my parents I was adding more every month. I watched to see if they would check, if they would ask questions, if they would demand to see statements. They did not. They just trusted that I was still feeding the account like always. That told me everything I needed to know. So I opened a new account at Chase Bank. Different bank, different institution, only my name on it. And slowly, carefully, over 6 months, I transferred $320,000 from the Wells Fargo joint account to my private Chase account. I did it in small chunks, 5,000 here, 10,000 there, nothing big enough to trigger alerts or raise suspicions. Just a steady trickle of money, moving from one place to another. I left 70,000 in the joint account. Real money, actual cash. But then I did something clever. For the next 12 months, I started making deposits and immediate withdrawals. I would write a check from my Chase account to the Wells Fargo joint account, let it show up on the statement as a deposit, then withdraw it as soon as the check cleared, over and over again. The statements showed money coming in, showed the balance climbing, but the actual cash in the account stayed at 70,000. Banking systems are not perfect. Statements show transactions, but they do not always show the full picture in real time. My father was checking the statements I mailed him every month, seeing deposits of 5,000, 8,000, 12,000. Seeing the total climb from 70,000 to 390,000 over the course of a year, he thought he was watching my savings grow. He was really watching a magic trick. When he walked into that bank 2 days ago and withdrew $390,000, the computer showed that amount available. So the bank processed it. They did not know that 320,000 of that was ghost money phantom deposits that had already been withdrawn, numbers on paper that did not have real cash behind them anymore. You withdrew 390,000, I said, watching my father's face as understanding started to dawn. But the bank only had 70,000 in real funds. What? Kyle jumped to his feet. The other 320,000, that is going to bounce. That transfer to your business partner, it is going to fail. And when it does, the bank is going to investigate. They are going to see that you withdrew funds that were not really there. And your business partner is going to want his money back, money you do not have. My father's face had gone from pale to gray. You set us up. No. I protected myself. I knew something was wrong 18 months ago. I knew you were going to do something like this, so I made sure that when you did, you would only be stealing from yourselves. Kyle was pacing now, hands in his hair. What happens when it bounces? We already signed the lease. We put down 50,000 as deposit, 50,000 that you borrowed from Uncle Frank and Aunt Marie Wright. I heard about that. I had kept my ear to the ground, stayed in touch with extended family, even as I pulled away from my immediate one. 50,000, you told them, was from your own savings. What are you going to tell them when the restaurant deal falls through? My mother was crying now, quiet tears running down her face. You would do this to your own family. You stole from me first. You took 10 years of my life, 10 years of sacrifice, and you did not even hesitate. You did not even ask. My father found his voice again, found that old authority. You recorded us. You have been planning this. I documented everything. I have emails, text messages. I recorded this phone call today. Recorded you admitting you took my money. That is legal in Colorado, one-party consent state. I have proof of malicious intent. Proof that you knew it was my money and took it anyway. You are bluffing. I pulled out my phone, played back the earlier conversation. His voice came through tinny but clear. Yeah, I withdrew it. Kyle needs it. I stopped the recording. Want to hear more? The room was silent except for my mother's crying. Here is what is going to happen, I said. My voice level calm. Calmer than I had any right to be. You have 48 hours to return my $70,000, not to the Wells Fargo account. To my personal Chase account. I pulled out a piece of paper, wrote down the account number, set it on the coffee table. If you do not, I go to the police. I file charges for theft and fraud. I turn over all my documentation. The bank is already going to investigate the bounce transaction. Do you want to add criminal charges on top of that? You would send your own father to jail, my mother whispered. You stole from your own son. So yes, without hesitation. Kyle was still pacing. What about the restaurant money? What about the lease? The partner already started ordering equipment. That is your problem. You gambled with stolen money. You face the consequences. Maybe it will teach you something about earning what you have instead of taking it from people who actually work. I walked to the door, turned back one last time. My father was sitting again, head in his hands. Kyle was panicking, phone out, probably calling his business partner. My mother was still crying. 48 hours, I said. After that I make calls. Your choice. I left, got in my car, drove back to my cramped studio apartment and waited. The first 24 hours were silent. No calls, no texts, nothing. I went to work, sat through meetings, processed invoices, acted like my entire world had not just shifted on its axis. But my phone was always in my pocket, always within reach, and I checked it every 30 minutes. At 36 hours, my mother called. Her voice was small, broken. Please, Atticus, he is your father. We will figure out a way to pay you back. Just do not report this. Do not ruin our lives. I am not ruining your lives. You did that yourselves. You have 12 hours left. Where are we supposed to get $70,000? The same place you were going to get $390,000. Figure it out. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Part of me wanted to give in, wanted to say it was okay, wanted to be the good son who forgave everything. But I was so tired. Tired of being second best, tired of being the backup plan, tired of loving people who only saw me as a resource. 47 hours after my ultimatum, my phone buzzed. Bank notification. Deposit received $70,000, 0 cents. They had done it. Somehow, probably by selling my father's truck and my mother's jewelry, probably by taking out a loan they could not afford, they had scraped together my money. An hour later, a text from my father. Just 7 words. You got your money. Never contact us again. I sat on my lumpy couch in my tiny apartment and read that message 5 times. Never contact us again. As if I was the villain in this story. As if I had done something wrong by refusing to be robbed blind. I typed back. That was always your choice, not mine. He did not respond. I did not expect him to. 2 weeks later, I heard through the family grapevine what happened. The restaurant deal fell apart when Kyle's business partner realized the money was not coming. Kyle lost the $50,000 deposit money my parents had borrowed from relatives, with promises of paying it back with interest once the restaurant took off. Now they had to sell my father's truck and take out a second mortgage on the house to pay people back. Kyle was still unemployed, still living with them, and according to my cousin, the tension in that house was thick enough to cut with a knife. I did not feel happy about it, but I did not feel guilty either. They made their choices. They lived with the consequences. That is how the world works. 3 months later, I bought my house. Small 3-bedroom ranch in the suburbs of Denver. Nothing fancy, but it had a yard and a front porch and windows that let in morning light. The closing cost, $385,000. I put down $77,000, the $70,000 from my parents, plus $7,000 I had saved in the meantime. The mortgage payment was manageable. The house was mine. I stood in the empty living room on move, in day boxes, stacked against the walls, and felt something I had not felt in years. Peace, not happiness, not yet, but peace. The quiet knowledge that this space belonged to me, that nobody could take it away, that I had built this with my own hands and my own choices. The healing came slowly. Some nights I could not sleep replaying that scene in my parents' living room, wondering if I could have done something differently. I started seeing a counselor, learned about boundaries and toxic family dynamics, and the difference between guilt and responsibility. She helped me understand that what I felt was not wrong, that protecting myself was not the same as attacking them. I made new friends. My neighbors, an older couple named Jim and Patricia, brought over cookies the day I moved in. They invited me to barbecues, helped me plant tomatoes in the backyard, never asked invasive questions about why I lived alone or where my family was. They just accepted me as I was. Work got better too. My boss noticed I seemed more focused, more present. 6 months after buying the house, I got promoted 15% raise corner office, with a window. I started having money left over at the end of the month. Money I could spend on things that made life easier. New furniture. A better car. Dinner out on Fridays. I dated someone for a while, a woman named Harper I met at a coffee shop. She was kind and funny and did not push when I said I was not close with my family. It did not work out in the end, but it taught me I could open up to people again, that not everyone would take advantage of trust. A year passed. Then another. The house stopped feeling new and started feeling like home. I learned which floorboards creaked which window, stuck in summer, where the afternoon sun made the best reading spot. I adopted a dog from the shelter, a mutt named Pepper, who slept on my bed and barked at squirrels. I never heard from my parents again. Sometimes I thought about reaching out, thought about sending a Christmas card or a birthday text. But then I would remember that text. Never contact us again. They had drawn the line, not me. I was just respecting their wishes. The anger faded over time. That hot burning rage that kept me up at night, that made my hands shake when I thought about what they did. It cooled, settled, turned into something more like acceptance. They were who they were. I could not change that. I could only control how I responded. I learned that blood does not mean loyalty. I learned that real family is not about DNA, or last names, or who raised you. Real family is about respect, trust, and love. It is about showing up for each other, not just when it is convenient, but when it is hard. My parents failed that test. I did not. Setting boundaries is not cruel. It is self-preservation. Walking away from people who only see you as a resource is not selfish. It is survival. I do not hate my parents. I do not even think about them most days. I just do not have space for them in my life anymore, and that is okay. Some bridges are meant to burn. The money was never really about the money. It was about being seen, being valued, being treated like my dreams mattered as much as Kyle's. They showed me I did not matter to them, not really, and I showed them I mattered to myself. That was enough. Sitting on my porch on a Sunday morning, coffee in hand, watching sunrise paint my front yard gold, I felt something close to gratitude. Not for what they did, but for what it taught me. I was stronger than I thought. I was worth more than they believed. I could build a life that was truly mine. For the first time in 32 years, I was building something that nobody could take away from me. Not with manipulation, not with guilt, not with claims of family obligation. This house, this life, this peace, it was all mine. Maybe that is what home really means. Not just 4 walls and a roof, but a place where you are safe to be yourself, where you do not have to perform or prove or sacrifice pieces of your soul to earn love. A place where you can finally rest. I am not angry anymore. I am free. So let me ask you something. Have you ever had to choose between family and yourself? Have you ever had to walk away from people you loved because staying would destroy you? Drop a comment below and share your story. Hit that like button if this resonated with you. Subscribe, because I have more stories about standing up for yourself when nobody else will. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it is okay to put yourself first. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps you remember that you are worth protecting, worth fighting for, even when the people who should know that forget. Take care of yourselves out there. You deserve it.